After months of campaigning, we are finally on the cusp of knowing what happens next in the White House and in the halls of Congress. The NPR Politics Podcast will be there with you every day with the latest results, and will tell you what you need to know in these uncertain times.
I'm Shireen Marisol Meraji.
I'm Gene Demby, and this is Code Switch
from NPR. As of the time we're recording this, which is Wednesday morning on November 4th, we still don't know who won the presidential election of 2020.
Existential uncertainty. Shireen, how could an election in 2020 have turned out any other way? I mean, really.
Well said. It's true. It couldn't have. And as of this moment, votes are still being counted, and after they're counted, you know there's going to be some fights over whether or not they should count. So we might not know who won this election for a minute.
Right. Shireen, I mean, you and I, we've been texting since last night, so I have a sense of this, but how are you feeling right now?
Gene, you know this. I'm a bit annoyed at these headlines that are coming out that are saying the young vote did this, the Latino vote did that. I'm like, okay, well, what about young Latinx voters? What about them? What did they do? Oh no, we can't be that specific, can we? No, because we don't have that information yet. And to stay on that for a second, there's been a lot of hand-wringing. Over 4% of the Latino population, Cubans, 2/3 of which live in Florida. Like, there's just been so much media attention on them, and that's been a little bit irritating to me. Just to remind people, we just don't know how all of this is breaking down yet, but we do know something.
What do we know?
It's your birthday. Today is your birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Are you done?
Happy birthday.
Are you done?
How did I do? Well, feliz cumpleaños.
Thank you, homie. I appreciate you. Fun fact, I was born on the day. I'm barely a millennial. I was born on the day that Ronald Reagan was elected president for the first time. The next time my birthday fell on election day, Barack Obama was elected president for the first time. So my birthday every 4 years is around some sort of electoral consequence.
Well, this time we don't know who the president is on your birthday. And there's another thing we don't know, which I mentioned already, which is what the electorate looks like. We do not have the final numbers on who voted in what percentages. No matter what y'all may be reading or watching, we do not have this information yet. And the question about what the electorate looks like is another way this year's election is an inflection point, a seismic one, perhaps. You know, that stranglehold that boomers have had on U.S. electoral politics, maybe it's over. We know America is getting younger and browner fast.
So in 2024, the two youngest voting age generational cohorts, that's the millennials and Gen Zers, they are, by the way, 45% people of color and 49% people of color, respectively. Those two generations will outnumber the boomers who vote in the 2024 election. But by 2028, millennials and Gen Zers will dwarf voters from the older generations. That's baby boomers, that's Gen Xers, not just in terms of voters, but in the number of eligible voters.
Right.
That's according to States of Change, which is a nonpartisan think tank.
And that demographic transformation is going to have a huge impact, lots of consequences for the way the two-party system works in the United States.
Yep.
We know that millennials and Gen Zers are typically much more liberal. They are deeply skeptical of the GOP. The Republican Party, which, as we've mentioned before, is nearly 90% white and has leaned pretty hard into Trumpism.
And there was a time when there were enough white votes out there for the GOP to win, and win comfortably with nearly all white support. But to put it plainly, the GOP is running out of white people. I mean, according to the New York Times, the number of voting age white Americans without college degrees, you know, that's a big part of Trump's base, that number has dropped by more than 5 million people just between 2016 and 2020. So this is all happening very quickly.
On the flip side, it's not a given that younger people's distrust for the GOP means that they'll automatically be steadfast Democrats, you know, ride that donkey toward their policy goals. That may not be what happens. So there's going to be a lot of internal battles among Democrats about how far left they should move.
Right. Remember that generational stuff we were just talking about. You know, the average senator is 63 years old. The Senate is still overwhelmingly white. So there's going to be a growing generational and ideological divide between, this presumptive Democratic voting base and the Democrats who actually represent them in Washington, too. So it's not that simple.
Well, listeners, we are going to be hitting you soon with a lot more analysis about what this election means and what it can tell us about race and identity in this country. But if y'all are anything like us, we know that what you really want is updates on what's happening right now, not 2024, not 2028. We get it. So today, we're turning it over to our friends at NPR's Politics Podcast.
Yep, they were up until the wee hours of the night, probably doom scrolling just like you, trying to make sense of all of this stuff. So here they are, and as they always remind us, by the time you hear this, a lot of stuff might have changed.
Hey there, it's the NPR Politics Podcast. I'm Susan Davis. I cover Congress.
I'm Aisha Roscoe. I cover the White House.
I'm Asma Khalid. I cover the presidential campaign.
And I'm Domenico Montanaro, senior political editor and correspondent.
And as we long expected, it is taking some time to call the presidential race. We had been warning people that this could drag out beyond election night, and here we are. The current electoral tally is 236 votes for Joe Biden to 213 votes for President Trump. We're still awaiting critical results in Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Here's Joe Biden addressing supporters.
We feel good about where we are. We really do. I'm here to tell you tonight, we believe we're on track to win this election.
President Trump on Twitter called tonight, quote, a big win, and falsely accused Democrats of trying to steal the election. Here he is speaking from the White House.
Millions and millions of people voted for us tonight, and a very sad group of people is trying to disenfranchise that group of people, and we won't stand for it. We will not stand for it.
Domenico, we don't know who's going to win this election, but I think it's safe to say that tonight was not the election that Democrats were hoping for.
Yeah, wow, what a night, and a strange night, overall. I mean, this was the kind of map that if you and I had talked about it a year ago, we could have come up with pretty much the path that's out there right now, where a lot of these Sun Belt states, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Texas would go to President Trump, although North Carolina and Georgia, as of 3 a.m. here, have still not been called. There's some votes still left to count there. It's a close race. And no, Democrats had wanted a blowout. They wanted a big win as a full repudiation of President Trump, and they didn't get that.
Both Trump and Biden believe they have a path to victory here. Aisha, what is the Trump campaign saying?
Yeah, and we should say you only need one path to win, right? To make it. What the Trump campaign is saying is that they are optimistic, but President Trump has gone beyond that. He spoke, after 2 a.m, and he basically said that he believes, and there's no evidence of this, that he has won already.
This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
And then he was threatening to go to the Supreme Court so that that there would be no more voting, and obviously that is also not true because voting has stopped. States are simply counting the votes. There had been concerns that he would prematurely declare victory, and that is exactly what he did. And he clearly still has a path, but he has prematurely said that he won, and he did not.
And what about Biden?
Well, Joe Biden came out to address supporters here in Wilmington, Delaware, earlier this morning at this point. And he, praised folks for their patience. He said that he believes that they are on track to win this election. He feels good about where they are at this point, and that he knew that it was going to be sort of a long slog. What I will say, though, Sue, is that it's, to me, sort of a difference in how we're hearing the tone of Joe Biden, and there is really I think he exuded this level of confidence about where things are. Some Democrats I've been speaking to, depending on where they are in the country tonight, they do feel somewhat anxious, right? Like, I think to Domenico's point, some folks saw the polls and they really were anticipating a much larger margin for Joe Biden. They thought that this race wouldn't be as tight as it seems to be. And so, the word of the night from a lot of Democrats was that they are cautiously optimistic. They feel like a lot depends on Pennsylvania.
Can we focus just on 2 states tonight? Because I think each is critical to each of the candidates' path. Trump won Florida, but I wonder what we know about the coalition that showed up for Trump to make that win possible.
Well, we know that Biden definitely underperformed in that Miami-Dade area. Trump did very well, and the thought is that he did very well with Cubans and, Venezuelans and others in that area, other Latinos in that area, and that Trump was able to really greatly outperform what he did in 2016. And Trump has shown strength with Latino voters. We knew that, and there had been some polling to show that, but I'm not sure that we knew that it would be at this level.
Really, those Miami-Dade results are some of the most stunning